result of a request from Christian church leaders in the Middle East in a 2009 document called Kairos Palestine, a word of faith, hope, and love from the heart of Palestinian suffering. Christians throughout the world were invited to come, to listen, and to witness firsthand the experiences of our brothers and sisters in the place where our own faith story begins. And it was indeed a journey into suffering. Signs of hope were muted. Repeatedly, we heard that the situation is getting worse. Our trip, as you've heard, involved sojourns in Lebanon, Israel, and the occupied territories of Palestine. There are so many stories that could be told, and many emotions to express. For me, it's still a kind of verbal collage of personal testimonies, detailed documentation of injustices, courage and ingenuity on the part of the people in response to oppression. There are massive roadblocks on the road to peace. Israel-Palestine is very rocky. Everywhere you look, there are rocks that are obstacles to all but the goats and the sheep that graze on the land. And now the land is also covered with military roadblocks, modern obstacles to peace. Fear was a pervasive byline throughout our trip. It was a privilege to be part of the delegation, a chance to meet our church partners and members of churches, to talk with teachers of the Near East School of Theology in Beirut, to meet Palestinian refugees in the Lebanese camps and those that are displaced from their original villages, now living in Israel or the occupied territories. It was inspiring to meet those Christians, Muslims, and Jews who are struggling on the front lines of the human, religious, and economic crisis that was visible everywhere. According to our world, this month leading up to Christmas is lighten up time, a time when we give ourselves permission to overindulge, buy extravagant gifts. Consumerism becomes a sacred right and overeating is compulsory. Christmas is the time to rise above the worries of home, work, and planet. Time to be happy, at peace, to anticipate birth. This series will probably not feel much like lighten up time. But I've chosen to focus on birth, looking forward as we do to the birth of Jesus Christ. One story involving childbirth stands out, recounted during a visit to the West Bank town of Qalqilia, known as the prison city. It is completely surrounded by the separation wall, and it's like a neck of a bottle. There is only one entry and exit into the territory. Qalqilia is being strangled, economically and geographically. So much land has been confiscated to build the wall, and water has been siphoned away to meet the needs of the Jewish settlements built high on the surrounding hills. Worse still, the wall separates the farmers from their fields, their only source of income. Very few inhabitants have permits to work in Israel, and the checkpoint they must pass through is often closed for holidays or other reasons. We were in Qalqilia to meet Ian, an Irish volunteer living in the Orkneys, with the Ecumenical Accompaniment Program in Palestine and Israel, which brings internationals to the West Bank to experience life under occupation. Ecumenical accompaniers, called EAs, provide a protective presence to vulnerable communities, monitor and report human rights abuses, and support Palestinians and Israelis working together for peace. It's an excellent initiative of the World Council of Churches in which 4 Presbyterians have already participated. Our guide with Ian was Abed Atek, a psychologist who now drives taxi and works with EA volunteers, acting as driver and translator and so much more. As we drove around the community, Abed told us a little of his story. He has been arrested 4 times by the Israeli Defense Forces. On one occasion, when he was hooded his hands cuffed behind his back, lying on the floor of the military vehicle, a soldier shot him in the leg. There was no known reason for the armed assault, although some believe that intimidation is the motive, trying to force people to leave the coveted territory. Arbitrary arrests are a regular occurrence here, targeting young boys, particularly like Abed's son. Like any father, he worries for his son's future. Youth are detained for days and released in exchange for informing on members of their community. Abed told us that he has to replace the seats of his taxi regularly. Why? Because of all the women who deliver their babies in his car. Amniotic fluid, urine, and the blood of these pregnant women are embedded in the upholstery of Abed's back seat. The soldiers at the checkpoint deny their travel to hospitals and a safe delivery. Every parent, even in Canada, experiences some fear as they approach delivery. Will it be normal and reasonably quick? Will my baby have all 10 fingers and toes? The one time a parent will welcome their shrieking cry is the reassuring first cry of a newborn, immediately banishing all worry and releasing tears of wonder. The joy of a pending new life is tinged with anxiety until it is over. Mary and Joseph must have shared some of those emotions, as do Abed's passengers, traveling the same rocky roads in search of a safe place for their son to be born. Perhaps Mary's contractions started early because of the jostling ride on a donkey. Did anyone attend to her as she delivered her first child far away from her own family? Was she scared, even though she knew God was with her? The story of Nativity, which is the culmination of our Advent waiting, is gift-wrapped for us in Canada. Angelic music, warm candlelight services in beautiful places such as this. Remove us from the pain, the fear, and the anxiety. The stable seems somewhat romantic, not crude and cold as Palestinian winter nights can be. Our celebrations seem far removed from the ongoing Palestinian tragedy unfolding even today, of children's homes destroyed, their schools, olive orchards, and water cisterns demolished by bulldozers. In Advent, we celebrate God's deepest love for our world, so that God sent his Son to be born and live among us. Jesus entered into our world's history. He knew displacement, hatred, and suffering. I mentioned fear as an underlying byline. Israeli fear stems from their long history of persecution, and many have wrongly put their faith in military might. Palestinians fear that by the time a peace agreement is signed, there will be no land nor resources left, leaving them destitute and powerless. The cycles of violence continue. But what do we fear? Why have we been reluctant to get more involved in this region that is the cradle of our faith? Jesus said, "Fear not," not as a platitude, but to call us into the heart of his courage and love for all people. When will we set aside fear and act with courage, love, and hope? May it start today. Amen.
Good afternoon. Our theme today is comfort. Comfort is from the Latin confortare. As a noun, it suggests strength. As a verb, to console, to support, to soothe, to strengthen. As we begin this holy season, our comfort lies in anticipation of the one whose birthday we will celebrate later in December. When I think about our visit to Lebanon, Israel, and the West Bank, comfort is not the first word that comes to mind. Other words seem more appropriate to what we saw, to what we were told, to what we witnessed. Conflict, despair, dispossession, exile, pain, and suffering. But, and there's always a but, I believe we found much comfort and hope in the people we met with, and more about them shortly. On our first day in Israel, we visited Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Center in West Jerusalem. A deeply moving and troubling visit. The depth of evil of the Holocaust is something we cannot comprehend. And I left Yad Vashem with many images. And one that I will share with you is a statement that I read by Kurt Tucholsky. Tucholsky was a German Jew, a journalist, a satirist, and he left Germany before Jews were rounded up and sent to the concentration camps. And I think he was anticipating of what was to come. And too few people listened. And he said this in 1933, "A country is not only what it does, it is also what it tolerates." I've been reading a lot lately about the events that led to the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. And for the majority of Jews, the creation of the State of Israel was a moment of extraordinary joy. For Palestinians, 1948 was anything but a moment of comfort. They refer to 1948 as Nakba, Arabic for the day of the catastrophe, when hundreds of thousands fled or were expelled from their homes and communities and from Palestine. We met with Archbishop Eli Shakur, Archbishop of the Melkite Church, in his office in Haifa. Archbishop Shakur was a recipient of the E.H. Johnson Award in memory of Ted Johnson, Presbyterian missionary. And he received this award on the occasion of our General Assembly in 2009. As we met with him and listened to him in his office in Haifa, he spoke, and he's written about it, his own family's experience of forced removal from their home and village of Biram in Upper Galilee. This was 1951. Israeli soldiers told the people of Biram to leave temporarily for security reasons. When they returned, they discovered their homes and their village had been bulldozed and flattened, and they were told never, ever return. Two very different narratives, two very different memories. Today there are over 500,000 Jewish settlers in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. An editorial in Haaretz, a Jewish paper published in Hebrew and English, said this on October 18th, 2011. And I quote, and it's dealing with the settlements and with the land. International law applies in the territories, and according to this law, private property can be expropriated from the Palestinians only for security needs. But the High Court of Justice of Israel ruled in 1979 that establishing settlements is not a security need. Where is the comfort and where is the hope for Palestinians? We heard on different occasions from people we met with that our visit was a sign, a small sign, that they had not been forgotten. The people we met with took some comfort in our visit, and this confers on us an ethical responsibility to share what we saw, what we witnessed, and what we were told, even if this causes us some discomfort. Archbishop Shakur's message is one of reconciliation and love. And as he said to us in Haifa, God does not kill, God is love. We visited the Mar Elias educational institutions in Ibilin, Upper Galilee. This is the school that Archbishop Shakur established, and it comprises both high school and post-secondary, open to Christians, Jews, and Muslims. The teaching staff includes Christians, Jews, and Muslims. There are other examples of Israeli Jews, Christians, and Muslims struggling for a future based on peace with justice. We met with Bethlehem. As an Israeli human rights organization, Bethlehem, and I quote from their website, acts primarily to change Israeli policy in the occupied territories and ensure that its government, which rules the occupied territories, protects the human rights of residents there and complies with its obligations under international law. Bethlehem in Hebrew means in the image of, in the image of, and is also used as a synonym for human dignity. And the word is taken from Genesis 1, verses 27. And God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. And I believe that the work, the vocation of Bethlehem shines light on the darkness. We met with YM, Palestinian Conflict Resolution Center based in Bethlehem, committed to peaceful, nonviolent action and a variety of programs for young people. And its director said to us, when there is violence, the truth suffers. When there is violence, the truth suffers. And YM, which is W-I''AM, is Arabic for cordial relations. Or as First Nations people would say, for right relations. And their office looks out on this lovely garden, really in an oasis. But the garden faces the wall that Glynis referred to. And no matter where you go, there are many statements and slogans on that wall. If you're handy with spray paint, that wall's a godsend. But one statement I noticed, and I first read it at Yad Vashem, was this: a country is not only what it does, it is also what it tolerates. We met with the Young Men's Christian Association in Beit Sahur, just outside of Bethlehem. And among its programs, the YMCA provides psychological counseling and vocational training for young Palestinians who've been in Israeli detention, some of them tortured. And the executive director of the Y explained to us that as a Christian organization, the core value that undergirds all of its ministry, all of its work, is love. So where is the comfort to be found? We could not and did not meet with every Israeli Jewish organization or Palestinian Christian organization or Muslim organization, but I am confident that those we did meet with represent a wider community of people committed to a vision of a hope-filled future, one committed to cordial relations. The work, and really it's a vocation, that these men and women carry out under great pressure, under great risk, provides comfort in the full sense of the word to the pain and the suffering of Palestinians. And in this season of hope, this is the hope that I felt on our visit. Thank you.